Welcome to the 16-ounce Cinema Podcast.
Hello and welcome to 16 Ounce Cinema, the podcast where we drink pints and talk pictures. I'm here with Gravestone Mike.
Hey, what's up?
And Sergeant Angus.
And Hut.
And I am, I forget what my made-up name was already. Well, I'm TJ then. I'm an asshole. I don't get a fun name.
You'll be Ensign TJ, the lowly one.
Oh my God, Ensign TJ. Great. Private first class.
Perfect.
Anyway, we're doing all this ranking talk because tonight's episode is coming back from war, meaning movies about people obviously coming back from war and what they go through in that experience. But before we get to that, why don't we quickly talk about our drinks for tonight? Angus, if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, to go along with my movie, you'll figure it out when I do the title. I picked a basic beer that everybody, I'm sure, here has had. It's Shock Top Belgian White. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Never heard of it.
Become a real hipster there, Angus. Well, I got a new Cigar City Brewing Company beer called, it's actually named after a t-shirt. It's called Guayabera, and it apparently has a bunch of berries and limes and tangerines in it and shit.
I love how much you guys love
good.
Cigar City.
Limes and tangerines, very citrusy, yeah. Oh no, yeah, I love Cigar City. I don't have a Cigar City tonight. Mine is it's got lemon, ginger, manuka honey. It claims to be a welcoming, spicy, sweet bliss. And it's tea because I don't feel good. Oh, so drinking tea. Yeah,
kind
it's from Puka or Puka. Yeah. Because I was sick for our last episode too, which we might as well confess that due to technical difficulties and technically being assholes, we had to scrap our 90s hood drama episode. We were delirious and we didn't know how to talk and we didn't know how to record our talking either. So everything came out all wrong and all bad, and we're sorry.
We just want to blame Mike.
Yeah. I will throw out that you should still watch all the movies that we watched for that. I watched Fresh.
I'm being put on the spot here. I have no idea what I watched.
A movie that I continued to claim you just made up, and then, or not that you made it up, but that you didn't actually watch it, and you were making up what happened based on just looking at the IMDb. And you couldn't keep the name straight. You watched New Jersey Drive.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. That's the one.
That was part of the problem of the episode. Was I just kept belligerently telling Mike that he didn't actually watch the movie and didn't let him tell us what happened.
Maybe very, very pissy too. So
and
became quiet.
My movie was.
I broke our IMDb.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
What?
Let's just stop talking about the bad things I did. I just stopped. Go.
Edit out.
Go.
Yeah, I watched Belly with Nas and DMX's big fucking swinging balls and dick.
That was the only thing we got right in the episode, was just talking way too much about DMX and his balls and his dick.
And really, that would have won him the week. So I think. All right, let's pop open our beers.
Now I'm gonna just drink my tea.
That was so uneventful.
I'll just slurp it loud.
Oh, I thought you were describing a beer taste. Wow.
Oh, that's strong ginger. Oh man, the ginger by volume is pretty high on this one.
Well, you like gingers.
Oh, I do. My wife is a ginger.
My beer tastes like Shock Top.
Well, yeah, this beer tastes all
right.
Good.
That's out of the way.
This is a good beer.
Yeah, now we can talk about some movies. Angus is going to talk about a movie.
All right, the movie I picked was from 1986, and it was released by Troma Entertainment, called Combat Shock.
I've never heard of it.
It's one of their actually more critically acclaimed movies. Yeah, it was directed by a man named Buddy G, starring his brother Ricky G.
Is Sergeant Kabuki Man in there? Because that's the only guy I know.
Oh man, I wish that would have made it so much better.
Sergeant Kabuki Man.
Like Sergeant Kabuki Man coming back from a war.
He just got back from a kamikaze mission.
Oh no.
He didn't do it.
He chickened out and like all his buddies are dead now and he feels this horrible like survivor guilt and this lack of pride, and of course his community scorns him for not
we have to write Andy Kaufman about this. Maybe not Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman is yeah.
He's probably dead too.
You got the wrong Kaufman.
Yeah, I was close.
I don't think they were related.
They were supposed to be making a Saving Private Toxie for like the last fucking 15 years, so maybe this was the plot. All right, so my movie begins with a bunch of like Vietnam stock footage of just planes bombing the shit out of the place.
Oh, mine has so much stock Vietnam footage too.
Mine too. Awesome. All three of us have it.
All three of us probably watched the same movie opening.
I wouldn't doubt it because, yeah, like the stock footage is the easiest fucking thing to do in filmmaking.
Yeah, mine had a lot of the helicopter stuff.
Yeah, it was all helicopters and planes just bombing on mine. In between the shots, you just see a guy running through a jungle. And this lasts for fucking 5 minutes of just the footage and him running. And the jungle that he's running through doesn't even really look like a jungle. It just looks like a nice little woods, like up in like a northeastern state.
So a little bit like too many pines.
Yeah, and the water was just like really nice and clean. So I looked it up. It turns out it was shot in like a marshland across the street from the Staten Island Mall.
War comes to America.
Like 20 yards of scrub that they just had him run back and forth in.
Yeah, it was the same fucking area. Like he was just running in a circle, basically. And then just the footage of just bombs and shit.
Movie magic. They took you there.
Where the bombs were hitting looked nothing like what he was running through. So it just didn't match. And then there's just a shot for like 2 minutes of just tall grass by a creek just going back and forth. That's it. Just grass moving. You don't see anybody. You don't see any more stock footage, just grass.
Does it have any meaning?
Yeah,
no,
what does it all mean? Is there a metaphor, an analogy?
I think they just had to kill time.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess. And it goes back to the man running, and then he starts narrating about how he lives this life every day, like he lives through this, and he's looking for the guys from his squad, and he comes across like all these dead people, and I believe some of them are the people in his squad, and some of the people that were part of the little village. And he sees like this like teenager, and the teenager starts following him, and the teenager's got a gun, so he's like trying to run more. And then some women just start following him for no reason. And then the guy just starts freaking
like
out.
Forrest Gump running.
And he notices the one girl is like really beautiful, and he gets like nervous and just is like, ah, and just shoots her right in the stomach because she was too pretty, I guess. Yeah. So then he starts running again, and then the kid with the gun is still chasing him now, especially after finding the dead girl. And the guy falls over because he trips over a dead body. And then the kid just starts like I don't know. The kid starts just softly poking him with the gun in the back, just very nicely, like, "Hey man, you should get up. Like, come on."
He just wants to chase him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. That's what I'm assuming.
I'd run away too from Jersey guys. Get out of here.
I'm just picturing Mike getting chased around by Jersey guys now. Like they really want to the Mike.
Hey, come here, you. Yeah. I don't know if that's their sounds. I don't know.
Hey, you!
So then he just wakes up.
Come over here. Come back. Oh, I love your games, Polish.
He wakes up in his shitty apartment with a crying baby and an angry wife.
Oh no!
And then they're
me or the movie?
Mike. I've been watching you, man.
Oh,
jeez. I set up a camera last time I was over. That's the movie I watched.
Wow.
I was just
pretty accurate.
Just a disturbed podcast. Like every 2 weeks, we get together and talk about like the things we witnessed in each other's lives from the secret cameras we have up.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Like, bro, I can't believe
you guys would just be watching. You would just be watching me jerk off to fat chicks. Like that's it. So he wakes up and then they're all angry and shit. And the baby's crying, and then you look at the baby, and the baby looks like a cross between the baby from Eraserhead, Toxic Avenger, and fuck, I don't know, Jason Voorhees, like when he was a child.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's really fucked up looking.
He's a doctor.
And his wife is yelling at him, like, because I guess he got Agent Orange, like, sprayed on him, and that's what caused it.
Oh.
And he opens a letter, they're being evicted, and then he's just sitting there while, like, his whole life is shitty, and the sink just keeps dripping, like, drip, 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 for entirely too long. It feels like fucking water torture. And he just starts losing his fucking mind, and like the edits in this part are like from a Saw movie where it's just like 100 clips per second, just you don't know what the fuck is going on through his head.
I love a good.
And then he just decides to take a nice walk through his neighborhood, which is a horrible rundown place. But the best part is it's got like the greatest 80s synth like music I've ever heard. Just like do
it.
Huh?
Is it anybody who did it? Like,
oh, I don't know. I didn't look that up. I don't care. Okay. Actually, I think one of his brothers did it. Maybe like who were they? Ricky G.
Andy Kaufman.
No, the G brothers.
Kenny G.
G Unit did it. Yeah, Kenny G. Kenny G fucking did it during his synth phase. There's three guys who look like they all shouldn't be hanging out with each other. One's like a Guido, one's like a Hispanic guy, and the other one's like a white punk guy. And apparently they like run the little area, and they're threatening to beat him up because he owes them money. And then they said that they're going to put his wife and baby into the sex trade because people are willing to pay more to fuck retarded babies.
And where is this? This is like New York or something?
Yeah, it's like the slums of New York. But I didn't know retarded babies go for more, like in the sex trade.
It seems like they're like.
So it's an educational film.
More high maintenance. You know?
Kind of like, you know how much drool you'd have to clean up.
When I picked this topic, I didn't expect retard baby sex
the economics
to be a topic of discussion. Yeah. Just didn't see it, but
this is an eye-opening podcast every week, or however often we can actually successfully record.
Once a month, I'd say. That's what we're averaging to, even though we wanted 2 times a week. Yeah. But anyways, what can you do? So the guy starts running again, and then he runs into a real junky-ass guy whose name is Mike.
Awesome.
Yeah. Geez. And he reminded me of you, Mike, if you didn't have any money and were a heroin addict. So,
that almost happened.
I'll have to look this guy up later. It's never almost happened.
And then just for reason, like it flashbacks to him being locked in a small box while shit blows up again of the stock footage. And he's like in the box, like, what's going on out there while the fucking villages are being burned to the ground?
This guy's not having a good time.
No. But he does have an awesome soundtrack that he runs to, because the music starts again.
Nice.
The music plays throughout all of it, and it's fucking incredible.
It sounds like one of those movies where you have to listen to the music more than anything else just to get by.
Well, the thing is, it's the same synth song each time, but every time you hear it, you get excited. Oh, fuck. I'm drinking my beer. He goes to the job agency. They can't find him a job, so then he just takes a nap. More flashbacks.
This guy's life. Wow.
It's running, flashbacks, and sleeping. That's all he does.
And occasionally getting yelled at and threatened.
Yeah. By either his wife or
gangsters.
Bullies on the street.
Yeah. Bullies.
They were more like school bullies than like gangsters.
Well, they were trying to sell his retarded baby.
No, that sounds like an exaggerated threat of like a schoolyard bully.
Oh, okay. All right. I took it seriously, so...
No.
No?
Okay. I mean, you gotta take those kinds of threats seriously. You shouldn't threaten like that. That's just not funny.
Except I was giggling throughout it. I don't think I mentioned, they finally reveal the guy's name. His name is Frankie. And...
Okay, Frankie goes to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Then he comes back and owes everyone money.
Mike's dead now.
Ah, jeez.
He's just dead. Like that? Yeah, I think he overdosed was the thing.
I just want to say, I have one of those in my movie, too. It's just going to be like, oh, he's dead, by the way. Just out of nowhere.
They never explain it?
Well, they do, but it's just like, hey, I'm dead.
Mine was never explained.
Surprise!
And Frankie takes Mike's money that he had, because Mike would rob people with a gun. And Frankie thought he was above that. But he's not above robbing his dead best friend.
Oh, he's
looting
dead.
Corpses.
If TJ dies, I'm taking some of his movies, so it's all good.
Yeah, you totally should.
Frankie calls his dad. His dad thought he was dead this whole time. So he's trying to borrow money from his dad, but apparently his dad lost all his money. They didn't really explain why. And
what
he's
a
gonna die
shit Jersey family.
This is such a depressing movie.
I hate all
really
these people.
Is severely depressing. That's why this is like one of Troma's like more critically acclaimed movies, is because it's not just fucking ridiculous like gore for any reason or just naked
Oscar
women.
baiting depression. Troma had an Oscar baiting movie.
Well, they didn't like produce it, like they just like
distributed
released it. They released it, like, but they didn't have anything to do with the making.
Oh, okay.
Then there's just this random chick who finds Mike's dead body, and then she robs him too and steals his gun.
I hope we spend the next 20 minutes with people looting Mike in his apartment.
Just everybody. There's a little prostitute girl who's like probably like 9.
Of course.
And Frankie starts talking to her like, hey, stop bullying that other girl. And then he's like trying to get to know her and stuff. And then like these guys come like, what are you doing with that little girl, you sick fuck? They just beat him up. And it turns out the little girl is being prostituted by the gang of the 3 guys who are jerks. The school bullies. He's fed up at this point and says, you know what, Mike's right. I got to do things differently.
So is this like a gnarly low-rent taxi driver?
Kind of. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's how to describe it.
I am not rooting for Frankie. I just want to make that known.
Well, he said that you were right. He says Mike's right in all this. And he changes his mind.
The dirt poor heroin junkie version of Mike.
Yes.
Who's dead now.
He starts stalking a woman. Then he robs her. And
so instead of like, I gotta do something, he just starts committing crime instead of like...
Yeah, that's it. That's his way to live a good life, is to rob women.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Which, I don't know, it makes sense to me. Fuck, I'm saying too much.
That's fine.
I really know my crutches.
In my college class, they told me to take a deep breath when instead of saying That's the one thing I've learned in college.
That would
Not
sound
quite
really
like
good
that.
too. All right.
Just take a little breather. Just let your words have a moment. There we go.
Pretty good. Start chasing synth music, and they start running everywhere, and then everybody's going to die. And now it's
The end.
yeah,
Great
that's
movie.
basically it, you guys.
I can't wait for the bullet points.
No, they chase him. He drops the girl's purse. Like, they're beating the living shit out of him. The girl's purse has Mike's gun in it. He picks it up, shoots all three of them, but like in kind of like a cool way. Then he goes home. He's listening to his wife bitch at him more, and then he's like, he sits down on the couch and he's like remembering all the shit that he saw in Vietnam, and the way he's been playing it in his head over these years was that his army buddies all went crazy and started killing and raping all the people in the village. Like, that's what he's believed this whole time since he's been back. But then when he's having the flashbacks, he realized he was the one who went crazy and killed everybody, including his own platoon.
Oh boy.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Awkward.
It's a nice twist.
So he decides that, if I'm going to be living in this hell, everybody else should come with me. So he shoots his fucking fat wife. He goes to the baby's crib and shoots the fucking deformed baby. And
Oh my god.
then he turns the gun to himself as soon as he hears the police show up. And that's the end of my movie.
Is this like 70 minutes long?
It's pretty short, yeah. It's trauma. Like, of course it's
Yeah.
short. They're not going to fucking dole out all this money for a big production.
Wow.
Shit, I have to edit out my notes now. I feel like I'm gonna take too much time. All right, that was a great movie.
Yeah, no, I actually. The thing is, like, I skimmed through it like really fast and everything, but it was actually a really good movie. Like, I liked it. I probably wouldn't watch it again, but if anybody wants to check it out, it's on Amazon Prime, or just buy it from Troma themselves and support them because I love Troma.
So
It felt like a short story or like a poem. That you read to us.
sorry, yeah, like, you know.
Yeah. About this guy named Frankie who, killed his retarded baby himself.
So have
and raped a
the
bunch of people in
G
Vietnam.
boys done anything else?
That's it.
The one thing that I saw that was interesting was the movie Maniac, right, from 1980.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe
haven't seen it,
Spinell,
but
like they were gonna do a sequel. Oh, it's one of my favorite fucking movies ever. Like, it's probably my favorite horror movie. Tom Savini did the special effects, and he got his head blown off in it with a shotgun. Really good movie. They were gonna do a sequel called what was it? Maniac 2? Like,
Maniac
no, it was
2.
like Mr. Robbie, and it was about like a clown who, like, was crazy and I guess would start killing people or something. But they shot like, I think like an 8-minute segment of it, like to get funding to do it. But then Joe Spinell died like before they ever made it. So that movie is actually on the Maniac 30th anniversary Blu-ray. And if I suggest buying that movie, because that movie's better. That's the only other thing.
Life
really
is
did.
Hot in Cracktown in 2009.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you hear,
My
I hear a dead baby somewhere in the background.
Yeah,
I heard that too,
Jeez.
but I didn't
that
want
might
to say.
happen a little bit. He's making some noises. Yeah, it is kind of spooky.
Okay.
I don't like when he talks in there in the middle of the night. But it's interesting. I know Mike is next, but Buddy G is Buddy Giovinazzo.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pronounce that.
Is he credited like in
I
the
wasn't
movie
even gonna
as
try.
Buddy G? Because yeah, they still
Yeah, it's Buddy
he's very
G
afraid to
in
say
the
that this guy
movie.
might be not American.
So I guess it's my go. Is it me? All right. So I picked the movie Gardens of Stone. This movie stars every famous person from every TNT or
Ooh.
TBS movie ever from the
I know those
1990s.
movies all too
Kilmer?
well.
And it also No, Val
Kurt
Kilmer,
Russell.
unfortunately. But I don't. I'll get to everybody.
I want Angus and I to get to try at least 3 more apiece.
All right, Angus, 3 more each. Go. Wait. It's a war romance drama.
Billy Zane.
No.
I don't have my 3 yet. Do you have 2 more, Angus?
William Sadler.
Wow, that's a good one, but no.
Michael Rappaport.
Fuck! I thought that was for sure.
What? No. That's wow. That's gonna ruin everything for the next 10 minutes for me. His face is in my mouth. Wow.
His face is in your mouth?
That is what I said. But because every time somebody says Michael Rappaport, I picture that photo of him where like everybody said he had herpes.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, except it wasn't herpes. He just had like a cold sore or something. And
no,
like, that's all I can think.
It was herpes.
It was probably herpes.
Yeah.
So I was a bit facetious with my every star, but it has a lot of them. And it also has Al from Quantum Leap, which is great. And it's directed by Francis Ford Coppola. So it's like a real movie.
Francis Ford Copulation?
Coppola. I'm not... Whatever. He's famous. He did a lot of movies.
Yeah, he did Peggy Sue Got Married.
I don't think I've watched that one.
Don't.
Oh, dude, you should have picked his wine. Doesn't he make wine?
Yeah,
he does
you
make
been drinking his wine to this.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Well, I fucked up there. This movie is about like the Arlington Cemetery and semi-retired army guys that do parades for dead guys while hating it. And that's like the whole 2 hours and a half right there. And they hate everything about it. Yeah, right. Done.
Cool. So, like, do they have something to say? All
right, so somehow it took till like the opening scene to make me realize that Gardens of Stone is like an allusion to the gravestones. I don't know why I didn't think that, but
I didn't
like
think
the first,
until you said Arlington Cemetery, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, like the first 5 minutes is just a shot of like Arlington Cemetery and all the parades and the Gardens of Stone all across there. So the first real scene after that kind of montage is something that makes me know I'm going to love this movie because it's a what? What'd you say?
I said feet.
Feet? No, there's no feet. What it is though is it's a very, very black sergeant. And he's calling our main guy, who I assume at this point is the main guy, a dildo. And he's just like, "You're a dildo." And then
that's still James one of the best insults ever.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't heard it in so long.
It's so good.
And then James Earl Jones comes in and asks if the fella buggered his pet goat. So that's how my movie started. James Earl continues talking about fucking while we get introduced to James Caan, who's also another famous guy.
Yes,
it's weird to hear him just referred to as James Earl.
James Earl. It sounds like a killer.
I actually wrote him as like James Earl and James Earl Jones like 100 times. So it's just gonna go all the way back and forth between it. So then we're introduced to James Caan, who really doesn't want to work at the cemetery. He just wants to teach kids how to die in Vietnam. And that's basically what he says. That's just his like dream job. But instead he's just stuck here.
There's a lot of James in this movie.
And then a lot of James. It's going to be confusing.
I hope it's James Marsden.
But luckily we have Al from Quantum Leap every once in a while. And then he starts calling dildo. So I'm going to refer to him as a dildo for the rest of the movie because I actually don't know his real name at this point.
I'm really happy with that choice.
And then Edward James almost turns up.
Choice. No more James. We're done with the James. It's just 2 of them. I might call him Jimmy in the middle of the movie, though. So during a dinner party, James Earl explains that what they actually do is kabuki theater with fake guns and fake bayonets. Exactly. And then basically, like, everyone except for Al from Quantum Leap seems to want to get the hell out of there and go into, like, real training.
I've never seen Quantum Leap, so when you say Alf, I'm just imagining the alien that eats cats.
That's actually a very close proximity to Al from Quantum Leap. So.
All right.
Yeah, more cigars and, like, taller and thinner. A little less hair. And then Angela Houston shows up, and she's kind of hot. and we see her like carrying food because she's a woman, and then James Caan like
her a dildo.
James Caan does not call her a dildo. He kind of cons her into having dinner, and then James Caan calls James Earl and says, "Hey, I need like a double date." So they have a dinner, and then one of my favorite scenes in the movie is where James Earl Jones says that Angelica Houston is so, and I quote, "yum yum," that he could drag his balls across her
James Earl
forehead.
Jones
Says this verbatim.
I'm totally YouTubing
so this
that
movie.
On. I gotta hear this.
So really, I think this film is just about him saying crazy shit for the whole movie, which makes me very happy. Which is actually perfect because the next scene is exactly that. It's James Earl Jones talking to a recruit.
Oh, I thought he was dragging balls.
And he,
I was so excited to see his balls dragging. That would have been the second movie in a row with like giant black balls dragging on stuff.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He did talk about it, so that kind of counts. We should keep it going for next time.
I know my next theme choice. Big black balls.
Big black balls. But the two best are already taken. So he's talking to this recruit, and he's talking about. He asked him if he has any siblings, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I have a 13-year-old sister." Oh, no. And then James Earl Jones gets really close to him, and he goes, "That's really too bad that your sister isn't sexually active because I love breaking in young women." Yeah, he's really into sex in this film.
Is she retarded? Because I would drive up her price too.
We did not get into the specifics, but he is from Alabama, so she could have been a little slow. So yes. And this movie came out a few years after your movie, so maybe like it was the same baby. Oh yeah, and then in the same scene as he's kind of walking down this like aisle of recruits, he gets very, very excited because Dildo knows about worm procreation. Dildo knows that worms procreate asexually, and James Earl Jones is so happy. I've never seen him so happy before about this fact. And then he says, "Hey Dildo, do you know who came up with the theory of making babies without sex and without missing a beat?" Dildo goes, "Is it your wife, Sergeant Major?" Ooh. And then James Earl gets even happier, and he gets so happy he almost starts crying. And then
he's like a proud father.
And then so he's walking down the line, and then James Caan goes up next to him and it kind of gives him that proud father, like, "Yeah, you got this." So that's my first 30 minutes of the movie, right there.
I thought you were going to say that's my movie.
No, it keeps going. It should have kind of ended soon, but it does keep going.
I want more Dildo.
So next, Dildo, James Earl and Caan gets shit-faced and beat up a bunch of guys. And then
just randomly, then we find out that guys in the street.
Yeah, like so. James Earl Jones is like the Sergeant Major. Caan is like the guy right
Sergeant
before
Major
him.
Caan. That's such a great name.
No, James Caan, or what's his name?
And I think he gets it into every contract for his movies that he's going to beat up a bunch of guys.
Okay, it's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, they're at a bar and like Dildo goes to like kind of try to pick up a chick, and then like other guys kind of beat him up, and then James Earl's like, "Hey, your boy's getting his ass kicked," and then James Caan's like, "Not on my watch," but not exactly that, and then they go beat up the guys, so they all get drunk together. Oh yeah, and then James Caan and Angelica Houston like
I love that you can't say her name.
You know, being romantic. Angelica Houston.
Being romantic? You mean just coy?
No. Okay, so they went on a date, and this movie's very bad at time. Like time has no reference here. Things just kind of jump, and so like I guess they're now dating because like he starts like making out with Angelica Houston, except it feels like we're in third grade and it's his first kiss. It's very like he grabs her by the face, and then he just sticks the tongue in her mouth. No, it's fucking crazy. A very awkward scene, kind of nasty. Oh, also, whenever a woman shows up on screen, it means a time jump happened. So, like every time we see Angelica Houston, it's like, oh, a week later, oh, several days later, oh, more time jumping. Like I actually never have any idea.
So
like,
every
what's
time
happening.
There's a quantum leap.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm so mad at myself. I didn't get that. Since we saw Angelica Houston make out with James Caan, now we're 6 months past. Like we took a 6 months jump, and Dildo got a promotion. It's very nice, and everyone's friendly with each other except they hate parades. We've seen like stock footage of several parades, and then really close, close ups of parades, so it's only like
just stock footage.
No, it's the dead soldier parades. There's very much don't ask, don't tell back then. So, so we kind of get into the meat of the film, and then Caan really hates the war and hates watching the soldiers die. And when he's talking about it, jazz starts playing, and he starts crying a little bit. So it's like super serious. And James,
or the jazz is so good it touched him.
It might. I don't think he heard the jazz. I think it was just for us. I've noticed James Earl Jones has stopped making sex jokes, and I am very, very disappointed.
Yeah, you can't make promises in the start of your movie and not fulfill them all the way through.
And I just want to point this out. He never makes another sex joke again.
I'm not watching this.
So, yeah, you really just watch the first 30 minutes or the sex jokes. That's all you need.
Okay. Way to sell the movie.
So then Caan beats. I'll get to that. James Earl actually sells the movie later.
Sell us the first 30 minutes.
Caan actually ends up. No, it's actually like an hour into it, so you got a good reason to watch it towards the middle.
How long is
he
this
actually
movie?
wears blackface.
Like 5 hours?
2 hours and a half. 2.5 hours. It's a long movie. Yeah, it's a very long movie.
Why would you pick
dude.
This?
I mean, James.
I guess he's got time to kill.
Actually, you'll find out why I picked it. Actually, later on, that's good. So then Caan beats up an Indian lawyer who calls him chicken shit and baby killer, for being in Vietnam. Oh, yeah. And then Angelica Houston gets very upset at Caan, even though he's the one who got hit first. Like the Indian guy, instead of hitting him, he put his hand on his face and kind of slapped him around, you baby killer. And he was very rude to him, and then Caan just beat the shit out of him.
Every time you say Caan, I'm just imagining the Star Trek villain.
I know, me too. I wish James Earl Jones wasn't here. I can't call them both James; it'd be very confusing. So he's got to be Caan, and it's too much. So anyway, Angelica Houston was on screen, so that means a time jumped again. Is it supposed to be a romance flick also? Because that's what IMDb said, but I don't really
it doesn't
see much
sound like
of
it at all.
No, Dildo and Caan are both very bad with women. I don't know how they started dating. I don't know what happened. Oh, by the way, Dildo now gets married. That's it. It just happened. There's a 5-second scene where he's with his high school sweetheart, and then he gives her a speech about how he loved her, and she says, "Oh, you only loved war." And then they get married. I have no idea what happened.
I hope Dildo married Fleshlight.
What? So yeah, they get married, and that's the scene.
The end.
There's more. The next part of the footage is where we get
an hour and a half more.
No, I only got a couple more paragraphs here. The next part is where we get our interspersed footage of Vietnam with all the flyovers and dying and stuff like that. And it's all intertwined between wedding scenes and training scenes for parades. So it's very off-putting. And I imagine, even though I already know the movie, I imagined at this point that this just kind of says that Dildo's going to die horribly. And I'm totally right, because he dies horribly soon.
In Vietnam?
In Vietnam.
His batteries run out.
And then there's another scene of Angelica Houston crying again, but I forget why. And that means that we get another time jump, because Dildo just went
9
to
years
train
gone by?
for one. No, we're 2.5 years deep, because now he went training for a year, and now he's back. And not only that, I actually had no idea he left until he came back. So yeah, there's that.
He's back.
Yeah. So he's back. He's married. He goes off to war just like that. We don't really it's scenes of James Caan talking to Angelica Houston and James Earl. They're just talking. He goes off to war. He comes back and dies. He doesn't come back. Sorry, he dies. He comes back dead, and then they have a parade for him. And so he comes back, they have a parade, and then like everyone's like, I hate doing parades, but everybody that knew Dildo was like, shut up, we're doing this right for Dildo.
A parade of dildos. That sounds awesome.
And so and then unfortunately there's like 25 more minutes of the movie left.
What?
And it's just basically like James Caan wishes Dildo was really into like sports and cars instead of Vietnam. Except now he wants to go to Vietnam because he's a fucking idiot. And now Angelica Houston is crying. And
all
the
these
movie's
time
over.
jumps. How does Vietnam even like? How is it still going?
Well, Vietnam was like 4 or 5 years, and this
Right,
is like a
but,
2.5 year in the middle. So it's like right smack in the middle.
Okay.
And even and I thought it was a pretty good film. And you'll see my next two reasons why I watched this film in the Horizon Shift. We'll settle it all home. It'll bring it all home about why it's a good movie. And that's it.
All right. So for my movie, I picked one going back to 1980, just to start out, something that was fun when I put the DVD in. Instead of saying play, it instead says start munching for Cannibal Apocalypse.
I get it.
Oh, nice. That's
So
solid.
this stars John Saxon.
Nice. I met him. He's a dick.
Yeah, he seems like he would be. I was watching this, and I've been watching a little bit more of his stuff. Like, I never really watched John Saxon. You like John Saxon, so you watch something because he's in it. And I've done that more recently, and he's not a good actor by any means.
Not.
Like some of these cult guys, they have something there, and he doesn't have anything. He's just kind of got like a face you like to look at. And he just makes that same face the whole damn movie.
Yeah. Can I say something
So anyway,
about like me and him?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like when I met him, I said he was dick, but honestly, I was probably the dick. It was like it was 8 years ago at like a convention, and I was shit faced because it was a VIP party and they gave out free beer. And I went to him and told him I liked him that he was in a movie called Mitchell with Jodan Baker. And the only reason I liked it was because Mystery Science Theater did it. And then I explained what Mystery Science Theater was. I was like, yeah, it's guys who make fun of bad movies. and now I realize like that probably was insulting to him because he was so pissed after I said that. And then I made his wife take my picture with him. So I take it back saying that he was a dick. It was totally me. I was the dick.
If you ever see him again, you feel like you guys, you're just hanging out having, coffee together. If you ever see him again, if you run into him, ask him about that movie he directed, Zombie Death House.
Oh God, no, because when I brought up something somebody directed before, they got mad at me again. Like the guy who played the creature from the Black Lagoon, I brought up a movie he did called The Amazing Mr. No Legs, and his response was, "I try to forget about that movie." And when an 80-year-old man says that to you, it's just like, God damn it. I'm sorry.
I assume Zombie Death House is one that Saxon wants to forget too, since he never attempted to direct anything afterwards. But I'm so curious, like, how he ended up even directing.
Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. He like, it's weird because he puts on this accent like he's trying to be Donald Pleasance. It's so weird. Like he plays like a doctor, so I don't know. He's trying to play like the villainous Donald Pleasance, and it's really weird.
When did it come out?
1987.
Okay, so it was way after fucking Michael Myers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was after the Mike Myers thing. Yeah, after Donald Pleasance had been in a few things of cult status. So anyway, we're gonna open up in Vietnam. We have the stock chopper footage I mentioned that,
and this is Zombie Death House, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Or Cannibal Apocalypse. Start munching from hell to victory. And basically, you have these American GIs, or they're just going in and basically flamethrowing everything to funky Italian synth.
I'm so you guys both had Italian synth, and I had fucking jazz music.
Both had Italian directors too.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to look up if the guy who did my music was anybody. Since I asked Angus, I wanted to know. It was Alexander Blockensteiner or something like that. His other claim to fame was The Erotic Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. So there's a bunch of immolations, and I love immolations, so that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie. There's exploding dogs. Saxon just kind of stands there and shouts a bunch.
Wait, did the dogs just blow up on their own?
They were like suicide bomber dogs, and one guy went to like go near the dog. One of the soldiers like wanted to pet the dog because I guess you're in the middle of a war zone. You still got to stop and pet a German Shepherd.
I would.
And he's like, "Get away from it, asshole!" That's John Saxon's opening line. And then the dog blows up.
Oh, jeez.
And then he mostly stands and shouts. It's one of those like, I'm gonna stand in the open and nobody's gonna shoot me kind of thing. And Saxon himself kind of just guns down the people that are already dead. He guns down a lot of corpses.
Waste of bullets.
until they find like their buddies are in a pit, right? They're eating a dead girl. Yeah, they're in a mosh pit.
Listening to immolation. Girl.
Nice.
Yes. And then there's this ridiculous back and forth, like it's like close-ups of like Saxon staring at them, and then you see them, and it goes on for like 45 seconds, just this ridiculous back and forth of Saxon being disgusted that they're eating a human. And then we come back, this is, I guess, sort of like this is what happened. He's flashbacking, and he wakes up. He's in his house, and he decides to go down and I guess open the fridge to get a glass of water, and then like he sees just raw, dripping, bloody meat. Like they just put like just the meat is dripping blood into his fridge.
That smells after a while.
Because Saxon can't I forgot to mention he gets bit. He gets bit in that opening scene. So like he's
a vampire,
a person. So he's got the crazy in him. And so he sees this raw meat, but rather than looking at it like he's suddenly got this, well, not suddenly, it's years later. He's come back from Vietnam. But rather than looking like he's fighting some sort of cannibalistic urge, it actually looks like he's like really randy. Like he's looking at this meat. Oh baby. Yeah. Drip blood in my fridge. And, it was just really weird. And like, there's like this French drama music. Like it's like almost romantic music plays. And then, his wife comes down and he's kind of just like, all Vietnam fucked up. They had that scene. And so she goes out and because it's morning now and it's time for her to go on with her day. And as she's out, she meets, I guess like not quite the neighbor. He lives a few blocks away, but he's he's John Saxon's doctor. And so she says, "Hey, can I give you a ride back to your house? I need to talk to you about John Saxon."
She refers to her husband as John Saxon.
Yeah. I had some people like knock on my door the other day and said, "Hey, can we take a moment to talk to you about John Saxon?" I said, "He's a terrible actor." Opened the door. So she lays out, he's acting weird and all that, and like whatever treatment doesn't seem to be working. And then the doctor is like, my advice for you is
solid.
You should have married me instead. And then he gets out of the car, and
I'm a doctor.
We go back to John Saxon just kind of like looking at his walls. And he has photos on his wall, but they're photos of like fucking explosions and like Vietnam carnage. So it's like, no wonder this guy's not getting better. Like,
I thought you were gonna say meat, just like raw meat, just hanging.
He's just staring at pictures of like helicopters blowing up.
I'm just imagining they're in those frames that are shaped like hearts that you get for Valentine's Day.
Oh my God. So then the little neighbor girl, she's like 16, right? She like so he's out flying a little like remote control airplane, and it ends up crashing, and because like the little girl's brother fucks it up. Anyway, he goes inside with the 16-year-old neighbor for whatever reason. I forget the like, initial reason. Anyway, like then he starts like massaging her like on her leg, and then she like starts to come on to him, and because John Saxon can't act, you don't know where this scene is going, because he looks at her like this kind of like disapproving father look, like no. But with like a little smirk, like, oh well, it's nice of you to think of me like that, but no way. And then they bang. I'm like, wait, you did it like. Yeah, so he bangs the 16-year-old
John Sexton.
Yes, John Sexton. And so now we cut to, there's a movie theater, right? And his buddy that he rescued from the cannibal pit, who was I don't know how to say his last name, but Giovanni Ribisi. He was
shit, he's in that.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Yeah. For Mike might not know, he was like the little crazy one in House on the Edge of the Park. Anyway, he's just a little crazy Italian dude, basically. And he's a little crazy American dude in this one. Ricky.
Those were our fake names.
So he's in the theater, and then like he sees this couple making out, but because their mouths are on each other, he like loses it and starts like just biting at her and him, and so he has an episode, and he runs out of the theater, and he basically there's this whole like crazy to do, and he pisses off a bunch of bikers, and he's shooting at people. It turns into this huge standoff where he's inside of like an indoor flea market, and he's killed a bunch of bikers and other people. So the bikers want at him, and the police show up, and there's this like Lee Marvin wannabe who's the sheriff. He just like tries to act tough, but he's just like, you're not anybody. And of course he spouts off just nonsense, tough guy talk.
It's really escalated from seeing a bad movie. Like he just left the theater and just fucking just went on killing spree and bikers and what's going on? I'm so confused.
I can't take this. So he's holed up with like rifles and shit and shooting people down from this flea market, and then, it makes the news. And John Saxon's wife hears about it, and first she has this look like she immediately thinks, just because like some guy's shooting up town, that it must be John Saxon.
Oh, John!
So she calls home to like, I guess, but then like I guess she assumes it's his buddy. She's like, "Oh, hey, Giovanni is at it again," and so Saxon's kind of like, well, I got to be done with you, little girl. And she's like, no one's ever bit me like that before. And he goes down, and he goes to talk down his buddy. He goes down. No, he already went down, actually. He already went down. That's how that scene happened. So he goes down to the flea market to talk his buddy out. And he gets in, and then they tear gas them. But he's like, remember, all you have to do is piss on it. And I don't know if that's an actual Vietnam tip. No, the tear gas. He pisses on the tear gas canister, and then they're okay.
Oh,
he's chasing around
the Benny Hill theme plays throughout this whole movie. That's.
Well,
I started the circus theme. No, wait, I can't remember how that goes. It's just only my head.
We both did the circus theme. Yeah. Okay, no, it's shit. It's dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, good job. I understand it completely now. So anyway, they managed to get Giovanni out of there without him getting killed. He bites a cop as he's being arrested. Then we just get this random scene of the 16-year-old girl and her little brother. They're at home, and like the 16-year-old girl is just basically just hanging out in her room, and her mom's like, why don't you fucking clean? You never clean. You need to clean. Why don't you clean your room since you're in there all day?
Blowing, and then,
like, she goes down. She goes downstairs and like screams at the little boy for like, I don't know, eating a cookie or watching TV or something. She's just in there just screaming at them. And then that's the scene. Then we go back to the asylum where Giovanni has been taken, and Giovanni is there with the black guy. He was actually there at the beginning, but we haven't seen him again till then. Yeah, James Earl Jones was in the pit, and like this guy loves to yell. He yells so much. He just loud like, "Get the fuckers, bite them, eat them, fuck them!" Like whatever the situation calls for, he is yelling about it the entire movie. So they do some sort of whatever crazy person trick, and then they get to start like biting people, and they're an insane asylum, and they're like escaping, and it's kind of like, this is the part where I start to realize like this is like 45 minutes into the movie. So this movie is basically like a zombie or an outbreak movie, but if it only told you about the initial outbreak, not about the swarms or dealing with it at all, just the very, very, very spark.
When you picked this, did you realize it was going to be like this, or did you think it was going to be like more of like just a regular Back from War movie, or did you realize it was going to be then?
Okay, well, I mean, I had seen it before, and I remembered it being boring, but I hadn't seen it in so long that I didn't remember it at all. And I was kind of looking it up before I watched it again, and like I saw reviews saying it was more story driven than you might expect, and I was like, okay, so yeah, it's more like there's not a lot of gore or action in it.
I've heard a lot of biting. That's pretty gory, isn't it?
Yeah, but a lot of it hasn't been super gory. Yeah, there's some pretty good gore effects near the end, but I wouldn't like sell it on its gore, I
love the flipping.
So we leave we leave the asylum chaos for a moment, and we see Saxon's having a conversation with his wife. And he's sort of confessing to banging the next girl neighbor. And she's like, "Oh my God, John, not again." And but then he starts to say, no, it's not that. No, I had this urge to bite her.
Oh, well, fucking her's okay, but biting, no. John, you're getting too crazy. Just fuck the neighbor, okay?
It's too much, John. It's too much.
Where am I going now? My notes get really out there in this last bit. So anyway, the asylum continues. Saxon ends up there. But what happens is that like you see this is where like they lose all the American actors, so they have really just your typical Italian dubbing, which is really like makes me feel good. I love it.
What do you mean they lost them?
There's no American actors for a moment.
Did they just disappear?
Well, they're all dubbed, so maybe they were still American, just being dubbed over.
Was John Saxon dubbed?
No, he might as well have been though. So the gore mostly consists of like just a lot of fake blood rather than seeing stuff happen, at least for this part of the movie. But it's still directed pretty well. Like you feel still a little squirmy about it. So as the asylum outbreak continues, there's a moment where like, there's a guy who might finally stand up to the cannibals, and he gets taken out and you don't see who. And then you see that it's John Saxon, and he very slowly wipes the blood off of his mouth. And then the French drama music comes back again. And basically from here, John Saxon, Giovanni, the black guy, and this, one of the a woman doctor who got bit and turned crazy. They just basically go out for a night on the town as cannibals.
Wait,
except that
no, you said a woman doctor, but what was the doctor that wanted to be with his wife? Yeah.
So he's around, but like not. He doesn't get killed here yet. So she does kill a different doctor. Pretty gruesomely, but yeah,
Doctor Apocalypse.
But the thing is that like when they go on their little like their rampage, they're kind of just like, I wrote down cannibal muggers because they just kind of attack people and like take stuff off of them, like guns and stuff.
Do they eat them?
They sometimes they bite them, but mostly they actually shoot people. So instead of like, they don't go crazy like zombies. They're basically just like, oh, something's wrong with us. We're crazy. We got to get away. And then, but they think very clearly and consciously. And they're also like, man, I just want to eat flesh.
All right.
But you say they only take a bite.
For the most part, yeah. There's not a lot of like.
They're watching their figures. It's the 70s.
There's not a lot. I guess they got full, and then but they still just wanted to kill or something.
Cannibals who look at carb intake.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I didn't quite understand. It was just so weird because it's basically just violent people running away.
Sounds like they're a bunch of assholes who just.
But they were implying that
kill people.
Eventually makes you lose all your faculties, but then that doesn't actually happen. Anyway, they end up in the sewers, and I wrote down that they're now chuds because they're cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers now.
And then the chud came at me.
They continue to just basically they just get in a bunch of shootouts with the police. The woman, the cannibal woman, despite this like neurotic disease, is still afraid of rats in the sewer. And more people catch on fire down here. Giovanni gets like his entire like middle blown out by a shotgun, which is like the money shot of the movie.
I like him. It's
really cool, and is the hole you see right through him, and it drips bloody nastiness and all that awesome stuff. And then basically all of them end up dead except John Saxon, who gets back to his house, and then there's this kind of like moment. He gets back in his Vietnam uniform. He basically had this moment where he kind of like stands down with his wife comes in, and then the doctor who wanted to marry his wife comes in, and they just all end up dead.
I forgot he went to war.
Yeah, and then of course, like the cop that was bit is still infected. There's still infected people out there. So, and then the last bit you see that the neighbor girl and her little brother have chopped up their mother, and her pieces are in the fridge.
Nice.
And that's the movie.
All right.
That's your Cannibal Apocalypse.
I was hoping he died, but that's cool too.
John Saxon did die.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the cops were like, well, thank God it's all over, but it's not.
So is the only one left the little girl with the pieces in the fridge?
No, there's a bunch of cops got infected because the one guy who got bit. There's a scene in like the where they're
we did part two.
There's a scene where I skipped over. There's a scene where they're downtown and like in the office, which is actually a pretty gruesome scene where like a bunch of people got chopped up and bit and then shot. But yeah, along the way they've infected quite a few people. Just with simple bites, and they didn't kill them, and then now they're going to go on, and I guess everybody in the world is going to become a cannibal who still can think and act and do stuff.
This was by far the most realistic of them.
You can still live a full life despite being a cannibal.
Cool.
And with my movie done, it's now time to move on to our best bullet points, where we each tell the best parts of our movies.
I didn't write any this time. I don't think I ever do, to be honest.
Oh,
but yeah, no, it's not.
It's only a third of our podcast. It's okay.
Trauma movie bullet point. That's a pretty good one because we all love Trauma.
One, like it. I love the idea of Trauma more, but I got you.
I will fight you.
That's fine.
The retarded baby is actually pretty fun looking. That sounds horrible to say, but it is.
Does it look better dead or alive?
Well, dead, like he just literally blows it out of the fucking crib with the gun. Like it just explodes. That's the sound.
I think that noise just might have sold it for you. Yeah,
that was the exact sound. Like I played it from the clip. That wasn't me.
That was perfect.
Just like we heard the Benny Hill theme earlier.
Oh yeah, I did it. I played it flawlessly.
Yeah, we're getting real good at our editing.
And I don't know. Like the movie was like I said, it's surprisingly good for like a Trauma movie. Like the story was like really well structured, and like it was really dark, and you actually felt like for the character, like more so than you would like one of their regular.
I felt for the character because a bunch of Jersey assholes was after him, so I felt.
Like those guys were dicks.
Fuck them.
Like we've all been fucked with Jersey guys, especially Mike. They caused him the OD,
especially Mike. Remember that? That was awkward.
There was something else. The synth music is just fucking hilarious and great. So I know I already said that a bunch, but
I could almost watch a movie on that alone. Just that
like, I would totally buy the vinyl if it was available, and it would just be the one song for fucking 50 minutes. That's all it was that song. And that's all I got.
All right, so so for me, there was this like 10-minute scene, like an hour 20 into the movie, where everybody plays dress up in the park, and they all pretend they're in Vietnam. And James Caan just kind of like shits all over everyone as a play fighting. No, like they're play fighting. So like everyone has to like, yeah, that's right. And so everyone is mad because it's supposed to be a game, but he's like just doing it for real, and his team is just kicking everyone's ass, and they can't find him. And like the war game was supposed to end like 2 days ago, and everyone's like, "Well, we got to find James Caan. Where the fuck is he?"
Wait, did they play the war game like in the cemetery?
No, they actually played it in like a major park. So they're just in the park in Washington D.C. somewhere, a public park, I might add. And then so James Earl Jones puts on blackface and sneaks up on Caan through a rift.
Why would he do that?
James Earl Jones puts on blackface. I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to, I guess, be like that army shit that they put on, but it's just him wearing blackface. So that's all it is. So anyway, he sneaks through a river and like sneaks up on James Caan's character.
Big fat James Earl Jones sneaks up on somebody?
Yeah, wearing blackface through a river. He jumps out of the river and puts James Caan in the headlock and tells him to knock the shit off. And then they hug because they have a little moment together, and he's like, "All right, but just give me a day. Let me get one more day." And then James Earl Jones is like, "All right, you got a day.
If not, I'll put my balls on your head."
Yeah, I'm gonna drag him.
You're so yum. And so that extra day he uses to steal Al from Quantum Leap, and they hog tie him, and it's amazing. And Al is very mad, and that's why you should watch this film. That's a good scene in the film. All right, I'm done.
All right, so Cannibal Apocalypse. I feel like I've laid all my cards out on the table already. There's not a lot of selling points in there. First of all, of course, John Saxon, even though I berated all of his acting. Like I said,
yeah, the whole movie was just you berating him. What the hell?
He's got a face that you like to look at. I don't know. He has presence. He can't act, but the dude has presence, which just defies all logic. But I'll give him that. The other part is just cannibals fighting bikers. That's all the action in this movie is cannibals versus bikers. There's a moment where like the cannibals, the squad of cannibals are against a squad of bikers, and they're fighting around a burning car. And the action is directed pretty well. Like I said, like the gore isn't much more than just a lot of blood for the most part, but it's directed well enough to make you squeamish. And just, that it's interesting, like maybe it's not it didn't create the best movie. They didn't create the most drama out of it, but there's not a lot of movies that are just the outbreak, or where like whatever's turning people into eating other people, where they keep their, intelligence. That's actually, I think, very unique to this movie. And I would list that as a selling point.
I love John Saxon, so I would love to bring this up to him and him be mad at me.
I don't think he should. Like, he's got no reason to be mad about. He had no reason to be mad about Mitchell. I don't think. Like, it's a boring movie. It could have been more exciting, but it's decent. It's not terrible. There's no just glaring flaws or. I mean, it's flawed, but there's nothing.
What if I went up to him in front of his wife and was like, "Dude, the way you fucked that 16-year-old, woo!" I think then he could be mad at me.
Wait, is there something?
I bet he'd be super
excited. Is there something
to,
left on the cutting room floor? Because they didn't show anything in the movie, but I know you.
Come on, Johnny.
I know you filmed something.
Let me know.
Johnny Saxon, or should I call you Johnny Saxon?
Right? Am I right? I go to give his wife a high five.
So, but does his wife just always go there with him? Like she's his keeper?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get a free holiday in fucking Orlando, you take your wife.
Guess so,
I mean,
yeah.
Like, it makes
if you want to
sense.
fuck a bunch of 16-year-olds.
Right, fuck.
Yeah.
Just John Saxon cleaning up on chubby goth girls.
Living my dream.
Well, if we're done with our best bullet points, we can move on to our final and best segment.
Yes.
That's the moment where we have to relate all of our movies to Paul W.S. Anderson's epic glory, Event Horizon, in a piece we call The Horizon Shift.
Angus?
God damn it,
Angus,
I was waiting. I wanted to interrupt the music.
Oh shit! That's right.
He never remembers.
So with my movie, basically, the guy goes to hell, right? Going to Vietnam and stuff.
Gotcha.
That's his hell.
Yeah.
He goes to it, and then once he gets back, he wants to take everybody else back to that hell that he went into. So what he does is he kills them
deep.
all.
That's pretty deep.
Boom.
Wow.
I like that. The essence is the
Perfect.
same.
Short and sweet. It's beautiful. Well, for my Horizon Shift, I unfortunately cheated because Lawrence fucking Fishburne is randomly throughout this movie.
Yeah.
That's a gimme.
Yeah, it is a kind of a gimme. Can't help it. In the opening scene, he's just full of swagger the whole movie. He just kind of walks around.
Does he have a cool chair?
He doesn't have a cool chair, but he has a cool. he just has a cool look and swagger. But the coolest part. So he's like a middle management army guy. I don't know what you're supposed to call him,
Sure.
but he's a real dick to his guys, right? So he's being a dick, not like a captain's supposed to be. So when he's about to like beat up a guy, Dildo beats him up instead and teaches him like a life lesson about how you shouldn't beat up.
I've been beat up with a dildo before,
and
it sucks.
so he teaches him how to be a captain, and that's my Horizon. Well, I think Lawrence took it to heart, as he was a great captain in Event Horizon.
Yeah, he was.
I think it was all because of
He was
Dildo.
a good captain in The Matrix too. So
That's right.
yeah. So for Cannibal Apocalypse, I do have, of course, a Horizon Shift. I have a fun little, anecdote that Event Horizon came out on August 15th, and John Saxon's birthday is only 10 days before that, on August 5th.
Oh,
which is also my wife's birthday.
Wow.
My wife was thrilled to hear that she shares a birthday with John Saxon.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, we're just related to our wives.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're just jealous. You don't have some kind of connection to John Saxon like that.
I met him and offended him.
I
have the biggest connection to him.
Yeah, but your wives don't share a birthday. Your wives?
I'm not married.
So my Horizon Shift is that basically to the beginning. John Saxon's obviously he's got this problem, but he's very strongly overcoming it, and and because of who he is, you're kind of led to believe that he's going to be the hero, kind of like how Sam Neill also has a similar kind of like not similar, a lesser, but still their kind of cult status as an actor. And even let's go back to the first time you ever saw Event Horizon. You can't deny that you thought like Sam Neill was going to be the hero of the day. But then, of course, by the end, it twists and he becomes the leader of the evil. And that's also what Saxon does in here. He kind of goes from your expectation that he's going to be a hero and save the day to being the number one bad guy. That's my Horizon Shift. Oh, you don't like it. It's been so good until I started.
The disappointment in your voice. It's so sad.
It looks
no,
so
TJ,
good.
I loved it, man.
When just the one little note I jotted on paper, but as soon as I was speaking it out loud, I was like, "This is terrible. I can't.
That's how I felt
I'm
about
not
mine.
even
It was
selling
cheated,
this.
so.
Oh no.
Mine was pretty awesome. So
Yeah, yours. Yeah. I feel like yours took the wind out of my sails because I was like, oh, ours are kind of similar. Because your guy twisted too. Like, he twisted and turned out he was actually all bad too. I was like, well, damn it. So now we go around and vote on the winner.
I guess because I went first, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm, as much as I don't want to, I'm gonna go John Sexton.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
But honestly, neither movie really piqued my interest. Sorry.
Nah, I think we had a bunch of duds this week.
Yeah.
Not terrible movies, just duds.
Oh, James had a lot of sex jokes. I think that was my highlight.
You don't see John Saxon in too much, so it's kind of always exciting to see him in something.
True. Yeah. As for me, I really hate New Jersey and everyone from there. So
it was New York. It was Staten Island.
Whatever. I'm pretending it's New Jersey in my head still.
You can't fucking fault me on something that it wasn't.
Well, actually, I'm not faulting you. I'm giving you extra points for it because in my head, the whole movie was about how Vietnam sucks, just like New Jersey.
Oh, that's deep.
I kind of want to see your movie because of that.
Yes.
So I choose Angus.
Yeah.
All right, now it's down to me.
Yeah.
So we're either nobody wins or Angus is going to win, and so the truth. I'm going to drag this out like a little fucking bitch. I'm trying to find words to drag it out. I'm just stall by stalling. So looking at your arguments, you have kind of like a gritty, almost metaphorical hell story that's short and sweet, but really depressing and really dark. And then you have something that's the opposite, that's not short and sweet, but has James Earl Jones making really nasty jokes you wouldn't expect him to. And it also seems to have a very nice core of just like brotherhood running throughout the entire film.
But the sex jokes are only 30 minutes throughout a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, dude. You haven't given me anything that makes me think it's worth sitting through 2.5 hours instead of just hopping on YouTube and chuckling at James Earl Jones for 10 minutes. So Combat Shock has to get it because you didn't sell me on it for the runtime.
I gotta get better at that.
Mechanic that it was tempting to watch it just for that mechanic of every time you see a woman, there's a jump in time. That sounds interesting.
Was pretty cool.
I wish I could write him a letter and ask him if that's what he was doing.
Yeah, if it was deliberate or just kind of like, eh.
Plus, all three of us still watched the movie with Italian directors, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So,
that is interesting. So, Angus, do you have a theme ready to go, or are you gonna just tell us?
Should I do that one that I sent you guys before that I thought was hilarious?
I'm totally not done with that.
Wait,
you make up whatever you want so you can watch that movie, but I'm not.
I want to know what you. Oh, yeah.
wanted to do socially progressive movies that were ahead of their time.
Yeah, I mean that could be a lot. That could be a lot of different things.
It could, but I'm not prepared to dig that deep.
Really just a bunch of
watch. Not to disparage socially progressive films, but come on, I can't sneak a cannibal apocalypse in there on that theme.
I think I could sneak in a Serbian film to that. So
it'd be funny. That's what we all picked. All right.
I did suggest boiling it down to Gender Bender. That will still allow you to have that movie
because that's not as funny. So I'll just wait on that movie until I can pick a funnier theme. So, I'm gonna go with horrible comic book adaptation.
Oh, okay. All right. That's very ripe. I hope somebody picks something that we just get into a vicious argument over. Like Mike picks Darkman. Oh my god! Mike picks Darkman and just tries to shit on Darkman.
I would totally shit on Darkman.
You would shit on Darkman, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bastard. But Liam Neeson is in it.
Yeah, I don't care. Fuck Liam Neeson.
It does open us up to to Darkman 2 and Darkman 3. Darkman, die. I'm sure those are pretty horrible.
Vote, Darkman, vote.
All right, well, instead of debating what movie we're going to end up watching, I guess we might as well sign off. So I've been some lesser ranked asshole with no say in anything, and I don't even have a name. And say goodbye to Angus and Gravestone.
Sergeant Angus.
Show me the respect.
I'm sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
Drop and give me 20, Private.
Goddamn Private. All right, goodbye.
So.
Good night.